When someone dies from mushroom poisoning, the death certificate might list the medical cause as fulminant hepatic failure or multi-organ system failure, but the real impact extends far beyond one person's physiological collapse. Mushroom poisoning deaths create devastating ripple effects through families and communities that persist for generations, leaving psychological trauma, financial devastation, and shattered relationships that never fully heal. The trauma progression for family members often begins with guilt, the crushing weight of "if only I had known" regret. A spouse feels guilty for not preventing their partner from foraging. Parents blame themselves for not teaching children more forcefully about mushroom dangers. Siblings who shared a meal but ate less of the contaminated mushrooms and survived carry survivor's guilt while watching their brother or sister die. These guilt patterns aren't rational. No one intentionally caused the poisoning, but rationality provides little comfort against the emotional reality of preventable loss. Families who've experienced mushroom poisoning deaths describe the financial devastation in concrete terms. Medical bills from intensive care unit stays, liver transplant attempts, and ultimately failed resuscitation efforts can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. Lost income during illness and after death eliminates household financial stability. Funeral costs compound the burden. And the ongoing costs continue: mental health treatment for traumatized survivors, children's educational expenses when the parent who is going to help with college is gone, and reduced household earning capacity that persists indefinitely. Some families declare bankruptcy. Others spend years or decades struggling with debt from medical bills that insurance didn't fully cover. The psychological aftermath extends beyond immediate family to witnesses and medical personnel. Emergency room staff who treated the patient carry secondary trauma from watching preventable deaths. Paramedics who responded to the initial emergency and transported a person who seemed only moderately ill, only to learn later that patient died from mushroom poisoning, experienced distress knowing they couldn't do more. Friends who shared meals with the victim but didn't eat the mushrooms suffer survivor's guilt. Each person connected to the death carries pieces of the trauma. Relationship breakdowns frequently follow mushroom poisoning deaths as blame dynamics emerge within families. Someone prepared the meal containing toxic mushrooms, and while the poisoning was accidental, other family members might struggle not to assign blame. Marriages dissolve under the stress of grief and financial pressure. Extended family relationships fracture over disagreements about medical decisions made during the crisis or anger about foraging decisions that led to the poisoning. The tragedy doesn't bring families together, it often tears them apart. Intergenerational effects persist long after the immediate crisis resolves. Children orphaned by mushroom poisoning deaths grow up without parents, facing all the documented negative outcomes associated with childhood parental loss. Grandchildren never know grandparents who died foraging. Family stories and traditions get disrupted by the missing person's absence. And the specific nature of the death preventable, resulting from what might seem like a foolish risk, adds complicated shame dimensions to the grief that might not exist with deaths from disease or accidents. Community impacts extend beyond individual families, particularly in immigrant communities and regions where foraging represents important cultural practice. Fear responses can eliminate traditional food gathering that previously provided economic and cultural value. Sweeping prohibitions of all foraging might emerge, throwing out legitimate traditional knowledge along with the dangerous practices. The chilling effect on knowledge transfer means valuable ecological wisdom gets lost because communities react to poisoning deaths by simply stopping all foraging education rather than improving it. Some families channel their grief into advocacy and prevention work, creating public education campaigns, supporting policy reform, and sharing their stories to prevent other families from experiencing similar tragedies. This advocacy provides meaning and purpose that helps some survivors process their loss. They speak at community events, work with poison control centers on education materials, and lobby for stronger regulations around commercial wild mushroom sales. The work doesn't eliminate their pain, but it offers a way to ensure their loved one's death might prevent future deaths. Mental health resources for mushroom poisoning survivors and bereaved families need to address the unique trauma profile these deaths create. The preventability generates different grief patterns than deaths from disease or accidents beyond anyone's control. The potential for self-blame or blame directed at family members requires specific therapeutic approaches. And the public health messaging around mushroom safety sometimes inadvertently shames victims by emphasizing how avoidable these deaths are, complicating survivors' ability to process grief without overwhelming self-recrimination.